Walking Stick Library presents What If COVID Vaccine Changed Your DNA? With your librarian hostess with the mostest, Eileen Kramer. And don't forget, you can catch this stream live on Twitch.
Sometimes somebody says something a little outrageous and you want to say, explain, why isn't that real? Because you're wondering, this is so far off the mark, it isn't funny. And you're saying, why should I? Let's go find this. How do we even tackle that? Do I just turn my back up to it? Do I just turn my back to it and that'll work? Do I just turn my back up? Do I just spit at it, turn my back to it, laugh at it? That's not going to help if you want to discuss it with people. And it still might not help if you want to discuss it with people. But how do you explain it? That's Emmanuel. He is coming by. That is my assistant, and he's so beautiful. Emmanuel, I must kiss you. No, there's no room in the lap, but you're welcome to stay for a little while. You are just classic cuteness, classic adult feline cuteness. Oh, it feels so good. Anyway, what do you do when somebody says something completely outrageous? And how do you handle it? How do you take it apart? Or somebody comes up with something that sounds plausible. Somebody's come up with something that sounds utterly plausible. God only knows what happened to my face, because I have no idea. It's a minor issue. Everything feels major, but it's a minor issue. I don't know how it happened in the night. Sleep issue, sleep-wake stress issue. I may have bruised myself in the night. There may have been a sleepwalking issue. Possible. Another good reason not to take the oxys, but that's another story. Yes, I did take one. It's one off. I have naproxen along with it, so naproxen lasts 12 hours. The nice thing about naproxen. So it doesn't wear off, and it has no psychological effects. Let me fix this a little more. But as somebody with sleep-wake disturbance, with weird sleep-wake behavior, not good. Oh, I get it. I'm fine getting up. I sleepwalk. I may have been sleepwalking when this happened. It's a stress reaction as well. Okay, we're not doing sleepwalking tonight. We'll do that another night. But, my family could be the Addams family. We'll talk about that another night too. Anyway, the person who said this unbearably weird thing was Todd Callender. And instead of just dismissing him, let's run with it. And let's figure out why it's not so. I had a student years ago who wondered why you could not get AIDS from a mosquito bite, except everyone knows you can't. But why? And there's a very good reason. The virus can't live inside a mosquito. So yeah, the mosquito can drink your blood, but the virus won't survive transmission to the next human. Things that a mosquito transmits are optimized for that pathway. The world is complicated, and this has some moving parts, but let's give it a go. We'll walk through all of this. Okay, let's open the curtain and minimize, and let's watch our friend Todd.
concern me is Mr. Musk talking about mRNA, right? Bill Gates and the rest of these gangsters understand that transforming our bodies into what is called synbio beings, right? We've already talked about the fact that genetic modification through the use of mRNA means that the synthetic product thereof, that's you if you got the shots, you are somebody else's chattel property. And so it bothers me when Mr. Musk says he's going to get in on the mRNA thing, because that's about transhumanism. That's changing us from this species into a new species.
Okay. You heard it. If you've had the RNA shot, it's changed your DNA. And that's turned you into a synthetic biological chattel. You're no longer human. Now, let's write this down. And I'm going to want a nice big one. So I am going to make sure we're at 100 and change this to 48. And I'm even going to put a background on it, which is something I don't commonly do. And I'm going to get some nice navy blue ink. Oh, I want the nice light blue for the background. And I want the ink to be a nice navy blue. And this is his argument. Make sure we have the right color ink. We do. And I'm going to type slow, unfortunately. Ooh, me bad, me bad, me bad, me bad. Turn off the caps lock. I'll fix that. I'm just doing a little cleanup in aisle 9 here. I'm sorry, aisle 9 got really messy tonight. But this is his idea. So the way we'd handle something like this is a kind of a what if. And we're going to write down the things we need to know. That's not what we're going to write down. Thank you. Synthetic. Well, that is what it is. Okay. First thing we're gonna ask is, what is a person under law? Because he's a lawyer and he believes you wouldn't have any rights. You would be homo borgiensis. And what we want to know is, Does DNA have anything to do with it? And the other thing that we would want to know is, what is a person? Does DNA have anything to do with it? What about humans? I'm sorry if I'm going a bit slow, folks. Humans with altered and there are. Because there are. Nobody, as far as I can tell, claims those people are not human. So this is what our friend Todd is saying, and I'm going to change the color so we can all see that it's different. This is Todd, and these are my questions. Because I think this has already happened. And I can think of several ways it has happened, but that it does happen. And what keeps, and we're not going to do these in order. This probably should be up there with the other legal questions. But these are the questions we're going to answer. And we're probably going to answer 1 and 4 first. Yes, we are watching we're listening to New York Jewish Radio, and I'm pretending to be a rabbi tonight. Oy vey. But let's have a look. Now, first thing we're going to need, I want more shapes because we always get more shapes. That is always the worst shape imaginable. So let's fix the outside to make it a bit thicker. Let's fix the inside. And the reason we're making this red is because, and we're going to make this bold. And we're going to make this a bit larger. We need to know legal definition of a person. When we need to know something, we frequently, I like Georgia, so let's keep Georgia. We're going to make this large. This may be as small as we can get away with. Let me see if I can get us up to 100%. That'll make life a lot more readable. We need the legal definition of a person. That's the first thing we're going to need, and I'm going to make this larger and see if it'll be happier that way. Copy style, and let's get the next one. Hello. Okay, we got one here. Legal definition of a person. We're also going to look at the 13th, 14th, 13th, 14th, and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. Of the Constitution of the United States. For those of you who are in other countries, I am sorry, and I know no one's here, but I'm American and Todd is American. So that kind of explains why we're doing what we're doing. So the first thing we're going to need is that definition, which gets us a search. And we're going to get out our potatoes. And we're going to keep the second one a loose phrase, not a bound phrase, because I don't think it matters. We're going to make sure there's no background on this and that the text itself is green again. And we're back to 36. So what I'm looking for is legal definition. That needs a pull, doesn't it? Legal definition. And over here, we're going to need person. This is a very tight little bitty search. Not a very exciting search. We're going to do this on Google. We're going to hope we get good sources, and we're going to sort through the sources and evaluate them afterwards. So I'm going to bring this in over here. And we're going to go to google.com. And we'll type in legal definition. No, we don't need the stop words. Person. Yes, I did rehearse this part of this. Okay. This one's at Cornell. I'm going to open it. We avoid the slop at the top. Law Legal Dictionary at law.com. And legal person in Wikipedia. So we got our choices. This is from Cornell Law School. A legal person is a human or non-human legal entity that is treated as a person for legal purposes. A legal person is capable of engaging in all usual business that a real person can participate in, such as suing, being sued, owning property, and entering into contracts. The concept of legal property is especially popular in business law, where business organizations like corporations, partnerships, limited liability possess legal personhood. As a result, these statutorily created entities are able to be treated as legally distinct from their shareholders. And statutorily means in law. So I'm going to hit Control C. We're going to come back here, and we've got one of our answers. I'm going to pan us back, put us at 100%, pan us up so we're right below. Control-Shift-V. There's your answer. And I'm going to put a background on this. I have a light green. Yes, I do. Okay. So for those who don't know, even if the DNA made me non-human, I still have a pretty good shot at being a person, because a corporation can be a person. And if I'm a legal person, I've got rights. Corporations have rights. And if there's some loophole in the law, go back here, they're talking about statutory, they talk about statutorily created entities. That means that Congress could pass a bill to give me back my rights, even if I were, for some reason, considered not to be a person. So even with my DNA changed, the law has a very expansive definition of personhood. So there's still a good chance I would be a person. Now, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're playing what if tonight. And I'm going to change this to black. Hello, we want to change you to black print. And we're going to change this to pink. So we have that. Next thing we want to do is get the 13th and 14th Amendments, because that gives us the rights. We've already established the chances are good I would be a person. I would still be a person. Make sure my colors are good. And we're going to get some more potatoes. You know, I don't even think we need potatoes. What we need to do is simply do a known item search. I'm going to assume Google knows where I am. And I can simply search 13th Amendment, and I can search 14th Amendment, and it's going to know that that's the U.S. Constitution. There are lots of other places that probably have 13th and 14th Amendments, but I'm going to assume that Google is US-centric. So let's go see what those have to say. Shall we? We shall. Back to Google, and let's have a look. And I'm sorry we are moving slow tonight. No, Emmanuel. I love you, Emmanuel. Close the gate, go. And that is a name, so we keep it. Okay, 13th Amendment celebration, constitutional amendments, Ronald Reagan Library, National Archives, 13th Amendment to the Constitution, National Archives, 13th Amendment to the Constitution, Wikipedia. We never got much further than the rest of these. And hello there. Okay, we need to embiggen, because we're going to have to go through a lot here. Okay. I'm actually looking at the text. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution abolished slavery and involuntary servitude except as punishment for crime. The amendment was passed by the Senate on April 8th, 1864, 101 years before my brother was born. Before my mother, not 100, 170 years before my mother was born to the day. And it was ratified at January 31st, 1865 by the House of Representatives. Let's see if we can actually get what it says. National Constitution Center. WEX. I would actually like a copy of it to read. Here it is. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Bingo, bingo, bingo! So they can't make you a chattel slave. You're not allowed to do that anymore. It's against the law. So we're going to get our guy out again, make it 48. We're going to give him a background. Because this kind of thing, we do want a background. That better? Yeah, that's better. And I'll just pop that back in again. And Control-Shift-V. No, we're not saying, I don't know what that's doing there, but that's just going away, 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 away. I don't care. And we can blow this back up to 100%. This is our 13th Amendment. You can't be a chattel. End of story. And we go a little further, we can get the 14th Amendment. I really like that they have this here, so let's see if we can get the 14th Amendment. Right here. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. No state shall enforce or make any law that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens. I'm going to get that and we'll really read it, but let me add that to our box. Because we need that. Let's put that in too. And we'll need to make this 100% because we're going to read this. And the 14th Amendment says all persons born or the first part of the 14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now remember, person is pretty flexible. If they can make a corporation a person, they probably could make you a person. And remember, being a chattel is illegal. It's illegal to make you into a chattel. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Thank you. By the way, we're looking at birthright citizenship right here, but in this case, we're looking at DNA right citizenship because the people this protected had DNA that made lots of melanin. And that's different DNA. We do not all have the same DNA. Okay, as again I said, this is fun hypothetical searching. This is not I'm going to turn this black for everybody. And turn this pink. So we now have these two things. So we know when we go back to here, we're back to here, folks, we have the answer. It's very flexible. Being a person is supremely flexible. And here we have the 13th and 14th Amendments that protect you from becoming chattel. So now the question is, are there humans walking around with altered DNA from other causes than the COVID shots? Is this an event that happens? And we're going to brainstorm on this one. So let me get us over to here. And I'm going to go get our wonderful sticky notes and make sure we're on 100%, which we're not, but we're going to be right now. I'll pan us in very close. Now, if you want to think of those twins in China, by all means, please do. But they're not whom I'm thinking of. I am thinking, well, there are people who've had gene therapy. And we can look at a very famous person. And along with this, we can look at, there were also chimera babies in England. This happens when they have three parents, when the mother is carrying a mitochondrial defect. And they are children with three parents. And nobody's talked about calling them anything different. This exists and I can show it to you. That's probably how we'll search for it. And it's been in the news. And what happens is the mother has a mitochondrial defect and she doesn't want to pass it on to her child. Mitochondria get passed on directly through the mother. It's the Eve hypothesis. So they do an in vitro with a mitochondrial donor. So the child's mitochondrial DNA comes from someone else than either of the two parents. Okay, that's one. But I'm looking for more mundane issues. Okay, what if I have an extra chromosome? That's an accident of conception. What if I have a bone marrow transplant? And we're going to call this an allogenic bone marrow transplant from somebody else. What if I have an allogenic, not allergenic? Ooh, we don't want that. We want an allogenic bone marrow transplant. Or I have an organ transplant. That organ isn't from you. That's from a different person with different DNA, right? Organ transplant. And we'll look that up to show that that has different DNA. And what if I get cancer? Doesn't cancer change the DNA of my cells through mutation? Okay. So we're going to look at some of these things. And there's a very famous woman who received a gene therapy, and her name is Victoria Gray. We now have a cure for sickle cell anemia. I believe her name is Victoria Gray. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for a bunch of stuff. And the first thing we're looking for is Victoria Gray and the Chimera children. So I'm going to go get my thing and stick this out again and get rid of the background. We're going to look for Victoria Gray. Typing one hand just really slows me down, and we're also going to look for children with three parents. Because I don't know what they call this, but it's a mitochondrial transplant. And it's the one kind of genetic engineering they allow in England. So this is a mitochondrial transplant, and this is Victoria Gray, who received gene therapy, altered DNA to combat sickle cell anemia. So we're going to clean up this area a little bit because it's too messy. We're going to go back to Google and we're going to look for our friend Victoria Gray. She's from Mississippi and she is world famous. And I'll add a sickle just in case. She is a sickle cell. Yep, there's the lady, sickle cell. I'll add this just in case because it's a common name, and there we are, 2023. And here we have it. Sickle cell patient's journey leads to landmark approval of gene editing treatment. So this is somebody whose genes have been edited. This is Victoria Gray. 4 years ago, Victoria Gray was lying in a hospital bed, exhausted by a lifetime with sickle cell disease and recovering from a grueling experimental treatment she hoped would save her. Today, the Forest, Mississippi mother of four is brimming with energy and hope. She's working full-time, keeping up with her teenage children and traveling the world with her husband. Gray's transformation is the result of a landmark medical experiment that she launched, which culminated in December with a milestone. The Food and Drug Administration approved the first treatment that uses gene editing to alleviate human illness. It's a first genetic therapy for the brutal blood disorder, which has long been neglected by medicine. For the past 4 years, NPR has been chronicling Gray's story. NPR broke the story. I'm ecstatic, Gray told NPR. It's a blessing that they approved this therapy. It's a new beginning for people with sickle cell disease. And this costs $2.2 million per patient. And this is how they're treating her. When NPR introduced Gray to listeners in 2019, she was 34 and had just undergone a gene editing procedure at the Sarah Cannon Research Institute in Nashville, Tennessee. It was uncharted territory, spurring high hopes, but also fraught with uncertainty and risk. It was the first time that cells edited with CRISPR had been infused into a patient with sickle cell. Sickle cell affects millions of people around the world, including 100,000 in the US. A genetic defect causes bone marrow to produce a defective version of the protein called hemoglobin. And you learn I took my human genetics course in 1982, they taught this because this was like one of the first ones that first illnesses they were able to unravel from a single nucleotide substitution in the DNA all the way to devastating effects. So this was the classic one they taught. And what happens is it creates deformed red blood cells, the GM vessels that don't carry oxygen normally, causing debilitating and eventually life-shortening complications. It's horrible when you walk, lift up a spoon to feed yourself. It gets real hard, Gray said at the time. One of the worst effects of sickle cell are unpredictable attacks of excruciating pain. These crises force patients to rush to the hospital for emergency blood transfusion and powerful narcotics to alleviate their pain. For gene editing treatment, doctors remove cells from the patient's bone marrow so scientists can use CRISPR to edit a gene, enabling the cells to make a healthy form of hemoglobin known as fetal hemoglobin. Patients then undergo chemotherapy to make room for their bone marrow for the edited cells, which means they destroy the existing bone marrow and put the good bone marrow in. So all her bone marrow has been edited. Finally, doctors infuse billions of modified cells back into the patient's bodies. So there we have a human who's been gene edited. And no one's suggesting she lost her humanity because of this. Ding! We've seen her. Now, let's try our children with three mothers. It's also called a mitochondrial transplant. Children with three parents. And I know what I'm looking for. Yep, child with three biological parents. And there's the slop at the top, but we're going to go to the BBC. Three-parent baby raises concern of health risk. This is another one they do. Baby born from three people's DNA in the UK is the first. There's the baby. A baby has been born using three people's DNA for the first time in the UK. Notice they said baby, not chattel or synbio. Most of their DNA comes from their two parents, but 0.1% from a third donor, a woman. The pioneering technique is an attempt to prevent children from being born with devastating mitochondrial diseases. This is kind of when things are in my wheelhouse, I can find them. Fewer than 5 such babies have been born, but no further details have been released. Mitochondrial diseases are incurable and can be fatal within days or even hours of birth. Some families have lost multiple children, and this technique is seen as the only option to have a healthy child of their own. Mitochondria are tiny compartments inside nearly every cell in the body that convert food to usable energy. So, I'm going to copy this, Control C, and we have an answer. We have an answer for 2 of these. And don't need that, go away. And we will fix this to give it a background because it needs it. Okay. And nobody is suggesting that that baby is a chattel slave. So we know that on this side, I'm going to push us back just a wee bit. Here's my favorite orange that we used to have. It's this orange. So we know that these are persons. No one's suggesting they're otherwise. Now, what if I get an allogenic bone marrow transplant? Now, in a bone marrow transplant, they wipe out all your bone marrow and put in fresh bone marrow from somewhere else, often made from stem cells, bone marrow stem cells. So we're going to want to do, let's go over here, another search this time. Gotta get my color that I like. And we are going to want a definition of an allogenic bone marrow transplant. And we're going to do that over here. We're going to get rid of the background. Okay. I don't want that. That's what I want. And we have an allogenic. I mean, allo means other, genes mean, so it's coming from another human. Bone marrow transplant. Transplant. So if this is coming from someone other than you, it's going to have different genes. And we're going to want a definition. I'm sorry this is taking forever tonight. And it's being really slow. And I'm going to see if anybody came in the house while my back was turned. No, I have hardly been on here on Twitch all day. So it kind of goes without saying. We'll end this and we'll have a look. Okay, we're going to take this. We're going to edit it. We're going to copy it, and we're going to run it on Google, and we're going to run it backwards because and can go in either direction. Definition. And I don't need another quotation mark, so we can leave that one out. And we can run it. Okay. Let me get the definition from the National Cancer Institute. That's Facebook, which I don't want to do. Allotransplantation. And that is from Wikipedia, and that's even better, because that takes care of organs too. Allotransplant, allo meaning other in Greek, is transplantation of cells, tissues, and organs from a transportation cells or organs to a recipient from a genetically non-identical donor of the same species. And there's no footnote. It needs one. The transplant is called an allograft, allogenic transplant, or homograft. Most human tissue and organ transplants are allografts. So anybody with a transplanted organ has different DNA in that, has had their DNA altered. And over here we have something that needs to be made larger. Allogenic bone marrow transplant, a procedure in which a patient receives healthy stem cells from a donor to replace their own stem cells that have been destroyed by treatment with radiation or high doses of chemotherapy. In an allogenic bone marrow transplant, the healthy stem cells come from a bone marrow of a related donor who is not an identical twin of the patient, or from an unrelated donor who is genetically similar to the patient. Similar does not mean identical. Again, nobody here is talking about somebody not becoming a person. And again, yeah, both the bone and the organ transplants are, both the organ and the bone transplants are, let's get this nice blue here. Both the organ and the bone transplants are altering your DNA. Now, we got two more. We've got the Down syndrome and we've got the cancer. I think it was this color. This is a person who is intellectually impaired frequently, as we all know. We've also got and if you have cancer cells in your body. They will try to take them out, but sometimes they come back. They hide, and sometimes they come back. And there are people running around who are at stage 3 or stage 4 cancer who undoubtedly have something hiding in them somewhere. And that surely is altered DNA. It isn't just DNA that got switched on. The DNA is usually pretty altered. Okay, so we are going to look at both of these. And these are quick, dirty searches, and they're going to be in the library for a change. And I'm sorry that we may not get to our second topic tonight, but these searches are going a bit slower and we're diving a bit deeper than we usually do. I'm going to put us back on our usual color, go get the potatoes back out, and we will do a very quick, dirty one on Down syndrome and civil rights. And the point here I'm proving is that even somebody who's intellectually impaired, who's got an extra chromosome and has quite different DNA, is still considered human. as opposed to a few, a little patch in your DNA that might be different. This is somebody with a whole extra chromosome in at least some of their cells. Some of them are mosaics, so it won't be in all of their cells. I'm enough of a science geek to do this, and we're looking for their civil rights. Could also be their human rights, by the way. So we're looking for that. And we're going to do that using the GSU library. So we're going to go to, I'm going to take us back out and take us to GSU library. And let's go back. Yeah, I am. This is the Georgia State University Library, and we're going to look up civil rights and Down syndrome. And remember, you can put stuff on either side of the and. It works exactly the same way. Okay. We need to get logged in. It always makes us log in, and it spins, and we go. Okay, this is Australia. Ableism versus free speech in Australia. Challenging online hate speech toward people with Down syndrome. A critical review of Ohio's unconstitutional right to life Down syndrome non-discrimination bill. Down syndrome ensembles, autonomy and disability rights in Mate Alberti's The Grown-Ups. How Down syndrome makes a brain beautifully different. Legal rights and hurdles in Babies with Down syndrome, a new parent's guide. This is a very old book, but I'm going to find it at GSU and see what happens. I think we hit a okay. Well, somebody needs to weed at Decatur. But that's only in 2. Okay. This is a law review, but let's take a look anyway. And we're spinning. I love it when we spin. We spin all night. We spin all night because we can. Come on. This is frustrating, isn't it? Really frustrating. By the way, this here says Legal rights and hurdles. Down here where we found this book. Let's change civil rights to legal rights. Now I'm going to do a little edit on the Miro end as well, and let's try that. We could even try human rights. Okay, and let's close it up. And let's move this guy out, this guy in, and I'll get my amazing squiggle pen. And let's go again. Okay, back we are. We're back. We're going to substitute legal. Let it rip. Spinning again. Okay, there's one right there. That we don't need. More about sex. Okay, I don't need books. What I need is to fix this so that we're not getting the really old stuff. Relevance, show 10, peer reviewed, all filters. Publication date. Let's make it the past 10 years and apply it. That's a little better. Okay, quality of life. Okay, that's one we ought to take a look at one night. I'm looking, and again, and apparently there are anti-discrimination laws. I don't know what this is going to say, but let's try it and see if it opens this time. We were just having such rotten luck the other time. This is the kind of thing we're looking for. These are the notes. The hollow shell of Ohio HB 214, a critical examination of the consequences of Down syndrome discrimination laws. And people try not to have these babies be born, but once they're born, it's another story. Mark Schrad called it the most heart-wrenching moment of his life, the moment after he and his wife were told their unborn child was expected to have Down syndrome. They were calmly told that there was a 50-50 chance of miscarriage or stillbirth. He felt that their doctors pressured them to terminate the pregnancy. Schrad's daughter was born with Down syndrome. We have never had second thoughts, even though we understand why some parents might choose otherwise. The choice to have a baby diagnosed with Down syndrome in utero is slowly and quietly disappearing in conservative states. And then we're going to go on. Yeah. Let me go back where I came from. This isn't what we're looking for. We're not looking for the right to terminate the pregnancy. We're looking for the people after they're born. And that's one. Guardianship laws. Turkey, again, I'm not really seeing this. Okay. Let's see. 2021. A proposed new law to give people with Down syndrome better legal rights to services first cleared parliamentary hurdle yesterday. Let's take a look. This is England, but England is a comparable country to the US. And we're going to have a look. And, come on, you can do better than that. You just can. We went clunk. Okay. I don't see a lot here, but I know it's around. So here we have one over here, disability policy studies, age of majority, alternatives to guardianship, intellectual disability, stereotypes and rights. I think a lot of this is going to be intellectual disability and rights. So I'm just going to alter this because I'm really looking at whether, we did one about whether people could vote, and the answer is usually yes. If they're interested, they are more than permitted to vote. It doesn't take that much to watch the news and make up your mind for any dumb reason you like. Intellectual disability and rights. We're just going to try that. Okay, let's let it rip and let's go. This may just be better. It may not matter that there's an extra chromosome in there. Okay, so this one is rights to sex. That's a human right. Ensuring the reproductive rights of women with intellectual disability. Let's take a look. This is 2020. So we're talking, very serious rights here. Not just you have the right to, say, have a credit card or to vote. Women with intellectual disability experience disparities in sexual and reproductive health care services. To explore perceptions of caring for persons with disability, including individuals with intellectual disability, we conducted open-ended individual interviews with 20 practicing physicians, 3 video-based focus group interviews with 22 practicing physicians with research data, interviews, I itch, I'm sorry, with transcribed verbatim. We used conventional content analysis methods to analyze the transcripts. And physicians indicated that intellectual disability can pose challenges in providing sexual and reproductive health care. Observations coalesced around 4 themes: communications, routine preventive care, contraception and sterilization, conception and parenthood. So gotta work. So they got a ways to go. Let's go back. If it lets us. Let's see what else we have. Okay. Disability Rights and Empowerment, Reflections on AJCP Research and a Call to Action. This is 2023. Let's get the PDF. It's spinning. Okay. People living with physical, sensory, intellectual, and or developmental disabilities experience complex social, environmental, political, and cultural challenges along with stigma and marginalization in education, employment, and community life. These multiple complex barriers often hinder their full and effective participation in society. In this reflection, we curated articles on physical, sensory, intellectual, and/or developmental disabilities published in the American Journal of Community Psychology from 1973 to 1922. We reviewed the titles and abstracts to identify themes that group manuscripts and relevant community psychologist core concepts and values. From our analysis, 5 themes emerged: promoting empowerment and advocacy, promoting organizations and settings that supported people with disabilities. Notice they use the word people, including people with disabilities in knowledge production, promoting social justice and disability research, promoting support networks for families of people with disabilities. So yeah, nobody is suggesting that these are not people. Help Me to Decide, a study of human rights-based supported decision-making with persons with intellectual disabilities. American Journal of Orthopsychiatry, 2024. So let's have another look-see. And we'll do one more, and then we'll look at the cancer cells. Decision-making is the basis for individual autonomy and societal participation. To support persons' human right to make life decisions, the model of supported decision-making has evolved and complies with Article 12 of the United Nations Convention on Human Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Models for implementing SDM and outcomes achieved by applying SDM in community settings remain insufficiently explored. This study used a human rights perspective with participatory qualitative research methods to investigate environmental conditions and social support measures that enabled persons with intellectual disabilities to make and implement their own decisions. Data gathered were 6 months of field notes about implementing supported decision-making at L'Arche, a day activity program for 26 adults with intellectual disability, with opinions and drawings illustrating a person's decision-making. All data were analyzed thematically. As a result of using SDM intervention, persons with intellectual disability became more expressive, able to discuss and debate options, and participated in organizational and municipal decision-making, expressed joy and feeling more like a human. Staff supporters and found SDM fulfilling and noticed it increased the sense of ownership persons with intellectual disability experienced in individual and group meetings. An organizational environment that respects human dignity, supports sustained relationships between persons with intellectual disability and their supporters. So again, nobody is suggesting somebody with Down syndrome is not a person, even if they have a whole extra chromosome. Okay, now this is a very different search over here. I'm going to put us at 100% and bring us over, and I am going to check my chat room because nobody's been here all night long. Hello, Eda the Pie, I didn't hear you come in and I gave up. We are answering. I don't know if you caught the beginning of the stream, but I'm going to play this for you just for fun. This is our friend Todd Callender. I'm going to put us out at full screen. He's on CloutHub. He has said some things that you don't want to go near tonight, and he on his last stream, he said quite a lot of them. Okay, I want him a little further over. Let's go, Todd.
I can tell you that. But there's more to learn here. And one of the things that does concern me is Mr. Musk talking about mRNA. Right? Bill Gates and the rest of these gangsters understand that transforming our bodies into what is called synbio beings, right? We've already talked about the fact that genetic modification through the use of mRNA means that the synthetic product thereof, that's you if you got the shots, you are somebody else's chattel property. And so it bothers me.
Okay, this was the crazy thing Todd said. You just heard it. And Todd Callender believes, I'm going to get Google up very quickly. I'm going to do a quick and dirty here that's not on the sheet just to show you whom we are dealing with, because I don't know if you know this guy as well as I do, but I love going after him. So periodically we look at something he says and try to explain why it's not so, and that's what we've been doing tonight. But anyway, let me bring up Todd Callender. And what we want here is DNA and COVID. And there's a wonderful article about him that quotes him. This is one of the ways he got famous. Homo borgiensis. Here are unfounded claims COVID-19 vaccinated are no longer human. If you've gotten a COVID-19 mRNA vaccine and like being human, an attorney named Todd Callender has some bad news. He indicated that you may no longer be human. Yes, you heard that correctly. That's what Todd Callender told social influencer Maria Z, and claimed in an interview that's been shared in an October 9th Instagram post and an October 6th Twitter post thousands of times. Instagram has labeled the post as false information, reviewed by independent fact checkers, but Twitter hasn't done so. Callender proclaimed that COVID-19 RNA vaccines may have altered your genes to the point where you are no longer human. What you will become then? An enormous hedgehog, a cat who wears shoes? Are you a dancer, as the song by Killers goes? No, Callender asserts that you may be Homo borgiensis and thus not entitled to human rights. And we have been busy semi-debunking this tonight, but from the newer statement. And what we found out is, I'm going to very quickly run you through this so we bring you up to date. If COVID vaccine altered my DNA, let's just say it did. Well, there are humans whose DNA are altered and they are still persons. We had children with mitochondrial transplants. We have humans with gene therapy. When it comes to the law, which I don't know very much about, the definition of a person is very flexible. It even includes corporations. So why not a person with different DNA? And again, I'm not a lawyer, and our Constitution very much looks down on turning humans into chattels. In fact, it's illegal. So between the very flexible definition of a person and the Constitution, they would have a very hard time making a synbio chattel out of you. And again, humans have had their DNA changed. There's various kinds of gene therapy. If you have had an organ or a bone marrow transplant and it's allogenic, you received different DNA. Your DNA also changed. Not all of you, but people with Down syndrome have a whole extra chromosome. We don't say they are non-human or chattels. And last but not least, the one we have not done yet is cancer. If you have cancer cells floating around your body, and people with late-stage cancer have this, I don't say they're going to live very long, but maybe with the right palliative treatment, they live for, a year or so. Their DNA in those cancer cells, I think, is very altered. And again, this is closer to my area of expertise. I'm a science librarian by trade. So what we can do is look at what happens to the DNA in neoplasms. Oh, Zora. And neoplasms is the Medline-y word for cancer, so we're going to use that wonderful Medline-y word. And we're going to do a wonderful Medline search. Unless you've got something else in mind, E. I really love seeing you here. And I am checking your schedule to see when you're on. I don't know if I'm going to be here on Saturday because I would like to go to synagogue. It's going to depend on whether I can put a set of keys around my neck one-handed. Keys on a short shoelace. I need to be able to go through the streets carrying nothing but this sling and my keys. And I'm wearing this sling. It's clothing. It's wonderful clothing because it enables me not to hurt. And when this is at rest, it's close to zero. The pain is close to zero. The pain control from this was absolutely perfect. And pain is really not the issue with a broken wrist. It is disability. I love you, even if I have to leave your litter pan to become a filth pit. Okay, neoplasms, and we're looking at DNA. And I think they mutate. My memory of seeing articles about this is that these things mutate like crazy. So if you have cancer, you're carrying altered DNA in your body. Besides being cells that no longer divide very well, they are also cells with very messed up DNA. Little alien cells. It's still your DNA, but it's really messed up and garbled. So this is what we're going to search, and this is a classic sloppy search. There's no brainstorming involved. If you were writing this out as a question, it's how does cancer mess up DNA? Alter/mess up DNA. That's a perfectly good barnyard statement. How does cancer mess up DNA? And I'm going to be looking for those articles. And this may be a cruddy search on the first go. It's perfectly okay if it is totally cruddy. We just had a little cat fight. My assistants are busy chasing each other. Okay, so what we're going to do is go to GSU Library. I'm going to get Google back out. We're going to just start with a clean slate. And let's go. Let's go. And we're going to skip this box because we want all this wonderful Medline-y goodness, even if we're not going to do very much with it, which we're not. We're going to scroll down, and we are going to use the thesaurus to get the neoplasms. We're going to make them a major topic. So we don't start with this box. We start with MESH 2025. This is a great tool. It is created by the U.S. Government Department of Commerce. I guess one of these nights we are going to do an ERIC search, because we're going to lose ERIC, which is another of the big government databases. ERIC is made by the Department of Education. I don't know where they're going to move it to. If they move it to somewhere else, we'll keep it. But ERIC is nice free information paid for you with your tax dollars. Medline is another government database, nice free information paid for you with your tax dollars. Anyway, let's look up neoplasms. Means new growth, and it is Medline's word for cancer. I am going to shortcut this just a little bit. And we want neoplasms. We want them as a major concept, and here we may have genetics. I'm not sure this is if I want genetics. I'm going to search the database, and we're going to add DNA into this. And yes, there's a million results. That is fine, because I'm going to put an and in here. And again, what we're doing is what is over here. Neoplasms and DNA. I did do this through the thesaurus. I'm doing this one as a keyword because I'm not sure if this is the right word, or if it is something a little more further grained out, whether we're dealing with garbled and broken chromosomes and duplications and deletions and God knows what all else. I'm not sure it's as subtle as DNA. So I'm trying to visualize this. So I'm going to throw this particular ball of mud at the wall and have a look. That's not what I want. No, it's not what I want. Okay, we need to clean this up. This is not working. So we're going to do Neoplasms genetics. Go. I don't care which one they use. I want this to be a major concept, and I want this to be the genetics. Now let's search. Okay, a little better. This one about epigenomics and tumor immunometabolism. I'm going to add mutation. I'm in my wheelhouse, so I can do some of this. I was not a biochem major, but I've read enough biology over the years that it might work. So let's get the DNA out of there. Oops, me bad. Try again, folks. And let's put in a brand new word, mutation. With an asterisk, because it could be single or plural. And I'll get my pen. That becomes a synonym. That's it. My squiggler is my synonym symbol. And let's go. Excellent. Okay. I see lots and lots of mutations. So let's try, I don't know what a Dirichlet multinomial. Multinomial means many numbers. Mixed model for determining differential abundance of mutational signatures. Mutational processes of diverse origin leave their imprints in the genome during tumor evolution. Bingo! That's what I wanted to see. These imprints are called mutational signatures. They have been characterized as point mutations, structural variants, copy number changes. Each signature has an exposure or abundance per sample, which indicates how much a process has contributed to overall genomic change. Mutational processes are not static, but and a better understanding of their dynamics is key to characterize tumor, its English spelling, evolution, and identify cancer cell vulnerabilities that can be exploited. So cancer cells have altered DNA. Let's click this. Actually, better yet, let's type it. Let's fix it by typing it. And I'm the one-handed wobble today. I'm going to just cover this back up. And they used a single. I'll use a single. And we'll close the parentheses. And this way we have two mesh major headings, mutation and cancer genetics. So our magic word tonight was mutation. Okay. I don't know what that is, but it's a mutant. And again, we can look at this. We may not have to get further than the abstract. So, okay, fine needle aspiration has been routinely used for papillary thyroid carcinoma diagnosis. One single liquid-based tissue sample collected from a fine needle aspiration can be used for both cytological diagnosis and genetic testing. At the same time, BRAF V600E mutation exhibits 100% specificity and high sensitivity for papillary thyroid carcinoma. However, fine needle aspiration-based studies based on the genotypic BRAF, V600E, and ultrasonic imaging are exceedingly rare. Here we aim to study the BRAF, V600E, and US imaging characteristics, location, diameter in a large retrospective cohort of 4,800 patients. Okay. So yeah, these things mutate. Let's go back to our result list and try one more. And again, we have another one here, and these are patients in China. Pan-cancer analysis to character the clinical, pathological, and genomic features of KRAS mutated patients in China. Christian rat sarcoma viral oncogene KRAS is the most frequently mutated oncogene in human cancers. So if it changes, it turns on. Significant advancements have been made in targeted therapy and immunotherapy for this gene in recent years, underscoring the importance of comprehensively understanding the genomic landscape of KRAS across various cancer types. And here they looked at 10,820 tumor samples and found KRAS mutations in 19.97% of cases. Pancreatic cancer showed the highest prevalence of KRAS mutations. So there are lots of genes that mutate when you have cancer, and nobody suggests that I know of. I don't think Todd would even suggest that having cancer cells in your body makes you non-human. So this is something that happens all the time I mean, not all the time, but there's lots of people walking around who, for whatever reason, have altered DNA. And they are not non-people. So we get all the way back up to my questions. DNA has nothing to do with being human, as far as the law is concerned. Nobody's talking about, and when people get their DNA altered, no one's talking about them losing their humanity, except Todd. And they're people. You still stay a person even if your DNA gets altered, whether it's through oncogenesis, whether it's through a bone marrow transplant, whether it's because something happened when you were conceived and you got an extra chromosome, or you didn't get a chromosome. You're walking around with Turner syndrome. So, most likely, if your COVID shot did change your DNA, and I don't find that as far-fetched a claim as you think. For all I know, I've got some cells in my left deltoid that are changed. Right here. Right up here in these muscles, there might be some cells that are a little different. So what? That doesn't make me not a human being. And if they're not changed because the RNA cannot get into the nucleus, never goes in the nucleus, and there's no reverse DNA transcriptase that works in adult human cells. So, there are good medical reasons that COVID-19 vaccine doesn't change your DNA. I've read that, but even if it did, you'd still be human. Thank you for watching, and remember, you can catch me live on Twitch.